Hello there, my internet friends. My name is Soul, and today I want to talk about the newest Demon Slayer movie, Infinity Castle. Yeah, Demon Slayer, you've probably heard of it. It's maybe the most overrated franchise of all time. Despite it's one of the most minimal stories I've ever seen in the anime, despite some of the characters like Zenitsu and Inosuke are some of the most annoying characters in anime. It's one of the most popular shows on my anime list. Crunchyroll at one point gave it Anime of the Decade, even though it was only out for a year at that time. And you can bet every normie anime fan out there has seen and probably loves Demon Slayer. And with all that being said, I don't blame them. I fucking love Demon Slayer too. That first season I was just talking about, that's a 10 out of 10. That's right there on my top 10 list. I got a fucking Demon Slayer tattoo. I got literal skin in the game. If there's anyone who wanted this movie to succeed, it's me. Because I wouldn't say Demon Slayer fell off or anything, but it definitely was not as hot the last couple arcs. The last two arcs were probably the least satisfying, but that was definitely the calm before the storm, the filler arc before Infinity Castle. And once I heard they were dividing it up into 3 movies, I wasn't super pleased with that. I kind of just want to finish the story. I don't want to be watching Demon Slayer into the 2030s. But at the same time, I loved Mugen Train and I love seeing this beautiful anime on the big screen, and I want this story to be the best it can be. So if adapting it into movies is how we get there, and if it means we all get to break box office numbers together, we get to sit in a theater together and watch Demon Slayer, you know, I'm here for it. Or God forbid, maybe you just watch that first really popular season of Demon Slayer and you are caught up. Don't do that. You need to be caught up for the story. Although I don't think Demon Slayer is this overly complicated story that you can't pick up on. It does pick up immediately where the last season left off. There's like a tiny little intro that gets us to where we are, but it does not go in depth. You need to be caught up on Demon Slayer. And considering they're adapting one arc into 3 movies, they really do have a good amount of time to work with. It doesn't feel like they cut a whole lot of things. I didn't read this arc or anything. I don't want to. I feel like the manga was almost a spoiler for the anime because I just love the way the anime looks. I want to experience it there first. But really all they adapt is like 3 fight scenes in this 2.5-hour movie. And the film looks fucking amazing, which I don't think anyone's surprised by that. You know, this is the final arc. They're putting everything into this. Like I said, Japan's economy depends on Demon Slayer's success, and it has some of the best animators ever at Ufotable. So yeah, they went all out. The film looks gorgeous. It's one of, every time I see Demon Slayer, I'm like, this is the best looking anime I've ever seen. And each season, I just keep saying that. So it continues to being great. But because there's really little downtime in this movie, the music just keeps ramping up. Like, it's this epic orchestra where it's like the most epic like anime music video, not like an AMV, like a music video of anime, like just a music video. That's what's playing on these beautiful cinema speakers as my eyeballs are being burned alive by the gorgeous visuals in front of me. And this is going to be a spoiler run. I just want to go in on this movie if that's all right. So it's going to be spoilers. It's been a while since the movie came out, so just go and watch it if you haven't already. I said earlier that there's pretty much like 3 fights that get adapted here. The first one is between the insect Hashira Shinobu and her fight against the second upper moon. I was immediately terrified because I was like, I think Shinobu's a strong character. I didn't know how strong at the time, and I was like, she's gonna fight like the second strongest dude they got immediately. That was very scary, and I really didn't know a whole lot about either of these characters going in, and yet somehow I think this was my favorite part of the whole movie. The second upper moon is maybe my new favorite villain in this story. He is so vile and so unlikable, but yet I completely understand his character. We're given his backstory where basically because of his unique eye and hair color, that his parents used him as this like little deity figure, and all the countrymen praised him as if he was a god, and despite the fact that they're all just gonna die these very sad deaths, he just continued to accept their praise. But once he became a demon, he was like, hold up, I can absorb these people and they can live with me for eternity. So you can see where his complex comes from. And he also killed Shinobu's sister. But Shinobu, fighting with poison, tries a bunch of different ones, and some of them seem to be working on him. And slowly she starts to kind of lose the battle. Then she does this like all or nothing attack, like just fills this motherfucker up with poison. But despite that, there was a couple hope spots, despite a couple times I thought she got this motherfucker, it did kind of feel like I was watching like a bee versus a lion. But yeah, I don't think I've ever hated anybody as much as I hated this dude in that moment as he's slowly absorbing Shinobu. And he has like this admiration and like this almost glee for the person he's killing. Like he had the gall to be like, man, you really tried your best. I'm so happy for you. You fully deserve to be absorbed by me. And I hated him so much. So R.I.P. Shinobu. I think she might be my favorite Hashira now. She's up there in the top 3 at the very least. The next fight was Zenitsu versus the 6th
Upper Moon,
whose backstory is obviously explained to us. They go in on how these two actually grew up training together. This guy was such in a league above Zenitsu, he felt disrespected that their master kept kind of putting them as equals. But you know, Zenitsu really kept his cool during this fight. Throughout the whole movie, they really didn't have a whole lot of jokes. Like, comparatively to like the last arc, there was like a fraction of the jokes. And Zenitsu, it's, just a tiny section of the manga, so he's probably just serious for that little bit, considering he's in this, really cool fight. But for the length of an entire movie, Zenitsu kept his cool, and he didn't annoy me, which is the most important thing. The next 2 movies, I don't see him doing a whole lot, because it feels like they kind of completed his character arc right here. His little student and master story coming together, I love that. And he defeated an Upper Moon all by himself. They did kind of like state like, hey, this guy like really just came into his own. If he like was an Upper Moon for another year and got more body counts, he probably would not have been able to defeat this guy, which made him more believable. But also just give the man the W. Zenitsu deserves it. I also like the idea that like he never really was able to learn any of the other techniques under the Thunder style, but he created his own, which doesn't like break the idea that he only knows one move, because it's like he mastered that move to the point he was able to evolve it into a new move. And it's also very satisfying seeing his rival, who always doubted him, seeing the glow up he had. But the next fight is the one we've been waiting for since Mugen Train. It is Tanjiro and Giyu versus Akaza. I feel like this fight kind of picks up right where Mugen Train left off. We just like went right back into fighting this motherfucker. And we've been waiting for this for years at this point. And I will say I loved everything up to the point when they finally cut off his head, because that's where things got weird. Because first off, it's a little unsatisfying fighting a torso who's kind of just struggling to stay alive. Because if you create the rule they can fight with their head cut off, he's slowly becoming strong enough to become like a Muzan type guy. That's okay with me, but it's unsatisfying to watch a torso beat up the heroes after you defeated him. And not only that, after that, the fight is struggling to reach his like human side, trying to get him to remember things, so he kind of gives in and fully dies. And what precedes us is the longest backstory I have ever felt. And I could tell this is the part that completely divided audience. I remember hearing some audience members as I was leaving the theaters who were comparing this to an entire arc of Naruto. And keep in mind, there was a bunch of backstories leading up to this point, and I was fine with all of them. Even if they were a little long, it's still a long movie. We can fit them in, and they evolved the characters a lot. And I do think this evolved Akaza's character a lot. I just don't know if the end's justifying the mean. Maybe we could have just put this at some other point in the story. Keep in mind, my body was physically rejecting this movie by the time we got here. This is the end of a 2.5-hour movie, and I was coming down from a little bit of a sickness. You can potentially still hear it now. And sitting in front of a very bright colored movie, maybe not the best idea. At this point in time, I had been up for like 20 hours, so after my eyes had been burning this entire movie, they go into this bright white backflash, and my eyes hurt so much I gotta close them, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm sleepy, I'm falling asleep. Then I'm like, no, stay awake, it's important, it's Demon Slayer. And then it's so fucking boring, and then I was like, my eyes hurt again, and I'm sleepy again, and it just kept doing that for the entire backstory. That being said, his backstory is cool. I've always liked that his tattoos still are in his character design from stealing back in the day. And because he wasn't strong enough to save his wife, he blamed himself for being weak, and that's why he always vowed to get stronger. That's why he wanted to become a demon. And in that quest of always becoming stronger and stronger, and hating himself for being weak at the time, he hates other people for being weak now. And now he's forgotten all this, and now he only understands become stronger, hate the weak, and just keep going from there. Which is cool because he has admiration for the Hashira because they're obviously strong, but because of Tanjiro able to kind of break down his character, he starts to loathe him. And so as they bring that human side out of him, his body just kind of gives in to the dying process, and they fully kill this guy, finally. Which is a little bit unsatisfying still, because if there was a guy we just wanted to kill, we just wanted this guy to be gone, it's the guy who killed Rengoku, but he gets a tragic backstory just like everybody, which is fine. Again, I just don't think this was properly paced. I don't think at the tail end of a movie we need a long backstory, and I think it did actually hurt my enjoyment of the film, because the whole time I was like, this stacks up right with the Entertainment District arc for me. I gave that like a 9 out of 10. This is probably going to be a 9 out of 10. But considering this is just a big fight fest, and considering there's not really like an ending to like an arc or anything, we're just kind of given a big cliffhanger. And combine that with the ending, I just don't think that's a 9 out of 10 anymore. Now, when I watch all three of these movies together, that's probably going to be a 10 out of 10. I will make that prediction now that that's going to be a 10 out of 10 experience. But for now, as a single slice of the pie, I think this is just an 8 out of 10. Like a strong 8 out of 10. I don't do decimals, but if I were, it'd be like an 8.8. But that's still an 8 to me. You're not a 9 until you get to that threshold. And you know what? I still want to see the movie again. I saw Mugen Train twice. I saw it dubbed and subbed, so I would love to see Infinity Castle dubbed now that I've seen it subbed. And they might do an anime adaptation just so like the series doesn't end on a cliffhanger. They did adapt Mugen Train after all, so I can see them pouring more money into Demon Slayer just to extend the actual anime. So I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time I talk about Infinity Castle, but for now, that's about all I got. If you have any thoughts about this movie, leave them down below, or any thoughts about Demon Slayer in general. And if you like this sleepy face talking about anime, I have a whole channel full of videos you can watch. And that's about all I got for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, with that, I leave you.